I'm Maddie.
I'm Amber. And we're Witches Talking Tarot.
We are the weirdos in this one.
Like a song, like a sailor snubble. Flip the switch and let the cauldron bubble. Sam.
Wow.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Amber.
And we're
Witches Talking Tarot.
And today we're going to be discussing a topic that I think is really important, especially around this time of year. We're going to be talking about visiting and exploring cemeteries, but doing it respectfully.
Yes.
A lot of people love around this time of year to go on walks in the cemetery, which I've always done.
not just this time of year, but
All the
anytime
time.
of
Yeah,
year.
like what I've always done.
Cemetery walking is like a big thing, and
Oh,
not
yeah.
just with pagan people.
No, I grew up going.
anybody.
When we went on walks growing up, we went on family walks through different cemeteries, and everybody thought that was weird. That's just what we did.
No, it's totally normal. It's part of our country's history. So I found out, because I had no idea, the original, our original parks in America, cemeteries.
Oh,
In the
absolutely.
1800s.
Absolutely.
We adopted the Victorian style of cemetery. Like we moved away from churchyards and the very crowded one on top of the other cemetery, because we started learning more about the way disease spreads and things like that. So we started spreading graves out wider and putting walkways in between like they had in England. And those were literally the first public parks that we had in America.
That's very interesting.
It is very interesting. So if you are a cemetery walker, you're not alone.
No,
it's not weird at all.
No,
it's,
I literally.
it
have
is
done
literally
growing up.
a national pastime.
Yeah, that is where we went on our walks growing up. We usually did it around dusk when the sun was going down. Like I told you, we used to walk dark time around the cemetery all the time, and it was so nice just putting the stroller. And like you said, that's a pastime.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of
national
parks,
pastime, and I find that highly interesting.
a lot of parks just in general, like Central Park in my town, are built on top of cemeteries. Like there are 2 parks in my town that are literally built on top of cemeteries.
That makes sense if the cemetery was a park.
Exactly. It kind
And
of just
now,
evolved.
yeah,
into
and
the
so the cemetery was a park.
Mhm.
So now when we redo the park,
Mhm.
we're redoing the cemetery, but we're redoing the park because it was always a park. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
Which I never knew before.
And they don't necessarily
that's
move the
crazy
bodies.
information to me.
Yeah, like
Yeah, no, they
Central Park.
No.
The bodies are still there. Oh, I say bodies, but it's such an old cemetery.
Right,
There's probably
there's
no
probably not many remains.
right,
left,
exactly.
Because
Bones
even
turn to
with
dust.
embalming, there's still an amount of time in which
Mhm.
it will go back to the
mean,
earth
and-
as it should.
Yes.
As it should.
And there are cemeteries where you can sit down and have just like a good time. We would have a picnic in the cemetery. It was great.
Yeah.
And that's not just American culture. I know Mexican culture, they do that all the time.
Oh yeah, no, and I mean we took that from Britain and a lot of other countries as well as they were, evolving and developing and things. They took that, Victorian era thing. I mean, it's kind of a nod to opulence because that's where it came from. It's kind of classist, to be perfectly honest. It truly is, because it came out of a classist system of showing we can afford to have enough land to bury our people in. We can afford to buy land to be dead in. And that's kind of a
Family
richy thing.
cemeteries.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And speaking of respect in cemeteries,
Right. Well,
I
and
just got
that's
to discuss this. It is disrespectful, and I can't believe I have to say this. It's disrespectful to put a straw in a coffin and drink the coffin juice. And people were doing that in Victorian England. And now
what did you just say?
there's a petition to do it again.
What do you mean coffin juice? What do you mean?
Did you not hear this? Oh, this is
What do you mean by coffin juice?
there's
No, explain what coffin juice is before you go any further.
exactly what you think it is.
No. What's that?
because it still has embalming fluid in it, and you're getting fucked up on coffin. That's disrespectful. That's a person. Did you not know people do that?
Oh God, no! Oh my God! I wish we hadn't eaten before we recorded. Oh my God!
I
No, I
imagine-
didn't know people fucking did that. Oh, did you guys know that? Oh God! There's a petition to bring it back.
Yeah, especially from like this one is it a monastery in England? I don't even think I could be in the same room as somebody doing that. I mean,
I'm like, no, if you drink the fluid out of a coffin, we can't be friends.
right? What
We
the
can't be friends. I'm gonna puke when I see you every time. Like, I'm trying to keep my tuna sub down right now. Who?
and what like so there's like a little hole, so you actually have to stick a straw in it. Probably one of those fucking smoothie straws because it's so chunky.
Not a little straw, it's a fat straw. I will stop making this noise eventually, everybody. Oh my God. I'm literally like, oh God, no. When was that common?
Well, it was super common in old Victorian in England, but it is now a thing again, and it's in like England area. And like I said, that's disrespectful. So let's not do that.
This is probably really bad for you too. Just saying.
I
It's probably not good
imagine
for your
so.
body.
Embalming fluid's not good for you. Sherlock Holmes may like it. Like,
Oh my God, like formaldehyde will kill you.
You-
And
right.
it's mixed with decaying flesh at this.
you know, I guess it's no
Oh,
different
Jesus.
than like Victorians eating zombie or
Mummies?
mummies.
that's so gross.
Is that cannibalism?
Yeah.
You would consider
Oh,
that
we need to do an episode on cannibalism, but yeah, I would consider that cannibalism.
cannibalism and spirituality? Like,
But no, that's,
No, but seriously. Anyway, so
okay.
let's
anyway,
not do
I've
that.
got to forget about that. Anyway, so Victorians, in their opulence of their not just drinking each other's bodily fluids after death, but in showing wealth through the cemetery system that we know of today, they would buy family plots. And if they were rich enough, they would gate off their family plots. That's why we have
Oh,
some
yeah, I see
areas of
them. I
cemeteries
see
that are
things
gated.
like that, and I have to say
Right.
this: like, that's just expensive nowadays.
Super
To
expensive.
bury somebody just now, just bury them.
It's disgusting.
It's ridiculous.
No, I mean, it is actually disgusting. The funeral system takes advantage of people when they're at their most vulnerable, when they've lost someone important to them. And then they charge them literally tens of thousands of dollars for a box that won't decompose.
A box, you have to pay for the plot itself. You have to pay for the stone, which brings me
Uh-huh.
to be respectful of these things. They're
Well-
expensive. I mean, that's not the only
Yeah,
reason.
no, I was just going to say, like, because the people that buy the fencing
Mhm.
paid for that, like, don't think that you can just step over it because this whole family's dead now. Like, that's disrespectful. Like,
Mhm.
respect the boundaries that are specifically given, as well as, because we've often talked about not stepping on graves.
Right.
And some people think it's okay to go beyond these other boundaries, like the fences that are put up, or the mock fences, because the fences are expensive. So they have like just these little corner things that kind of
Mhm.
denote the edge points. But they paid for that for a reason. It's really expensive, but they paid for it for a reason. So like, it's disrespectful to cross that boundary is where I was going with that. So sorry, before we move on.
So in the cemetery I used to live down the road from, it's the biggest cemetery in my town. Loved it. I would look at through the windows of the mausoleums. Is that what they're called? And I just
Yes.
wonder, they're so old, from like
Right.
1807. And I'm like, who cleans these? Who goes in there? I'm so jealous. Like, I want to go in there and look around. No, there's a Catholic one that is connected to the St. Anne's and the Vietnamese.
Which
Catholic.
would be a churchyard.
Yes. It's huge. I went in there. You can go in there. Wall to wall. Like, I wouldn't want to be, that's not being buried. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm
but
not
I
going
mean,
to be disrespectful, but you're just putting the coffin in the.
well, and it's part of like that whole, like, you know, in our vampire episode, go check out season 1, season 2.
I think it's season 1.
Yeah, but we talked about how, like, you know, in a lot of European cultures, they would actually dig up the bones because they ran out of room in the ground for burials. And that's where mausoleums come from in the same breath, is we run out of room for burying people in the ground. So they would stack them up instead.
So I don't think it's disrespectful to go inside a mausoleum, assuming it's unlocked and you are allowed to go inside.
Yes, if it says private property
Right,
or like,
right.
you know, family only, or, you know, something only, you know that you're not.
Most of the
you know what I
ones
mean?
that are that, like, this one is connected to the cemetery. It's a part of the church. It's, you can go in there, you know. Be respectful. Be like, you don't want to leave trash. Why would you want to leave trash in a cemetery at all, let alone in a mausoleum? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Don't go banging around. I'll like, hello.
Yeah,
is
well,
anybody
and see,
there?
don't be
You know?
loud in general. Like, whether you're in the mausoleum or
Uh-huh.
out in the graveyard, the dead are there to rest. They're
Mhm.
there to be at peace. Don't be hollering
Mhm.
and shouting. If you're laughing and having a good time with your friends,
I think that
then
would be
that's
welcome.
fine,
That would be
yes.
welcome.
but don't be loud about it,
Mhm.
because the dead are there to be at peace. They're there for rest.
Mhm.
And if you're being loud, you're being disrespectful. Having a good time and being happy, that's not disrespectful at all. That's a celebration of life. But to be like boisterous, to be
Mhm.
hollering and, you know, just like you said, like
Obnoxious.
banging around or knocking on headstones. Hey, is anybody home? That's not letting the dead be at peace.
Mhm.
That's not letting them rest.
Something else is that is very, I'm sorry, I hate that it's controversial because I don't think it should be controversial, but don't take shit out of a cemetery because you can. There was some lady that was taking bones out of a cemetery and then selling them because she claimed, oh, I collected these, it's good for witchcraft. Now, if you want to collect graveyard dirt, for me personally, it's always great to ask permission. Probably don't take it from a specific grave, but like
That's
just
what
a
I'm over
part-
here. Like, if you were just to take dirt from the graveyard,
Mhm. That's
That's
totally
fine.
different than
but going
to-
onto a grave and taking the graveyard dirt off of an actual grave,
That's where
that's very disrespectful.
yeah.
And old cemeteries have bones that rise through the ground.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean they're there for you to use.
Mhm.
If you're using an 1800s woman's finger bones in your witchcraft, that's disrespectful and rude.
I think so too. That's also asking for a fucking haunting. Like
I just think it's
pissed.
rude. Like,
it is.
even if my spirit's no longer attached to these physical things once I'm gone, I don't think I want somebody keeping my bones from further decomposition
Mhm.
by using my body parts
Mhm.
in their spell work.
If you're going to a family grave and you want to get some family type graveyard dirt to work with your ancestors, personally, the way that I would think it would be respectful, I would not do that. I don't use graveyard dirt. I don't, but for whoever does, maybe leave an offering, maybe ask permission. And if you feel like the answer is yes, then you could leave an
I would
offering
ask
like
permission.
flowers.
But I
you
would
know?
also ask permission at any graveyard
Right.
if I were going to take anything
I
out of the
agree.
graveyard. I would definitely ask permission. But at an ancestral graveyard, you just have that deeper of a connection to
Mhm.
ask that permission. Because I would definitely ask permission about taking anything, even out of my own ancestral.
I agree.
Because, like, I know a lot of people go, well, they're my ancestors. I can do with them as I will.
That's
But
so
it's like,
rude.
I'm very conscientious of the fact that my nearest ancestors
Mhm.
would not be down with the way I practice and live my life. They were Catholics.
Mhm.
They, they were Catholics and Jews. So they would not at all. My Native American great grandmother is the one, and her foreigners are the ones that are like, yes, my child. But the rest of them, they were Catholics and Jews. They would not at all like how I live my life.
And that needs
And
to
I'm
be
con-
taken into
It
consideration.
does, yes,
I think
because
so.
like I'm very conscientious of that fact. And I also explain to them, like, I'm trying to live the life that your formers were living. Like,
Mhm.
I'm trying to discover how they lived and emulate that, because I'm not of the Abrahamic mindset. But I am conscientious of the fact that they were.
Well, and leaving offerings in cemeteries, that's nothing new. People
No,
do
that
it
is
all. I
nothing
mean,
new.
people do it all the time.
Yeah, leaving flowers at the
flowers.
grave.
Mhm. Some people leave coins.
Yep.
You know,
Some people live like at a child's grave, for instance, like toy cars
Mhm.
or a doll, a figure or a stuffed animal, things that in life they would have, had care
Enjoyed.
for. Yeah. And that's respectful. Even if you don't know them, I think it's respectful to, or appropriately respectful to leave an offering at a grave that you feel called to. Like, if you want to leave flowers at this grave, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Mhm.
I don't know how that person's family members would feel, and that's where it gets a little sticky. If you're in a very, very old graveyard, though, I think it's fine. I think it is more than fine. I think it's ultra respectful because you're in a place where they probably don't have anybody alive that remembers them to honor their grave anymore.
Mhm.
So, like, if you're looking for a place, because like this time of year, a lot of us do honor our ancestors. So if you're looking for a place to honor your ancestors and you're in a very old graveyard
Mhm.
or cemetery, I think it would be not only acceptable, but respectful to honor those dead with offerings, because there's not anybody coming to give them offerings.
You know what I just realized?
As long as you're doing it in a respectful manner.
I know this is weird, but you know what's kind of like Halloween or Samhain? Memorial Day.
Yes,
It really
it
is.
really is.
Or not,
And
not just
when is
Memorial
Memorial Day? It's near Beltane, which is also
Mhm.
called Spring Halloween.
Well, and I'm also like, is Memorial Day the
Just saying.
soldier one?
Yes, it's in memory of our fallen
Our
soldiers.
soldier. It's the exact same thing as Samhain, except for it's specific for like soldiers, right?
Mhm.
Mind blown. It's
Well,
the,
I mean,
it's like the
just
exact
like
same thing.
Well, it's right by Spring Halloween at
Mhm.
Beltane, and I
Mhm.
have absolutely, because that's when the veil is thin, right? Because like I've noticed how even like some of our state holidays kind of emulate the pagan.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I
celebrations,
never
yeah.
thought of it that way until this
Oh,
conversation. So.
Well, because I've thought about it a lot, because Memorial Day is often when I have ever gotten to go to my grandfather's grave, because he's in Texas, and my mother lives there, and I'd go visit her at Mother's Day and Memorial Day, both very close to Beltane. So it's like it was something that I had thought about. I have already previously thought about before, because I was like, oh, well, I'm getting to put flowers on his grave right near Memorial Day, so that's really cool. And then once I started celebrating Beltane, it was like, oh,
That's interesting.
yeah, because it's right by Memorial Day, and yeah, and people call it Spring Halloween, which, how are you not going to love Spring Halloween?
I guess I get it, because like I do see people. What month does it take place in?
May, early May.
Okay, so yeah, I see, like, there are times when there's like Halloween movies on Disney Channel, because it's like Halloween in the spring.
Well, because it's like 6 months counter. Too,
Oh, okay. Is that why
it's
they?
like,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
because it's just directly across the Wheel of the Year.
Mhm.
I was looking for my Wheel of the Year. It's right over your head, and I totally missed it.
It's a beautiful Wheel of the Year. I'm very, I don't want to say jealous of it, but I want one like that so bad. It's very beautiful.
I got lucky. I definitely got lucky. I got it at an auction, one of my first PPDs that I
Oh,
ever
that's an
went to.
expensive one too. I've looked on Etsy, and ones like that can go for like $300+. It is gorgeous.
Yeah,
And we'll have to post a picture
yeah,
maybe on our Instagram or
yeah,
something.
yeah. I definitely will,
But
because like
look at the
I think I
pumpkins
paid
and the
like
apples
$20,
and the
$25
acorns.
for that.
holy shit, that's a steal.
Yeah, I know. I
That's
know.
like, you can
Like,
get a paper one for $20. Holy crap, that is
Yup.
amazing.
Yep. Yep. No, and it is beautiful. It's got great detail. But I was looking for that so I could be like, it's directly across each other on the wheel of the year. But it is, you know.
It is,
So
yeah.
it's like, and that's why I say like cemetery walking can happen at any time of year.
Oh yeah.
It's especially popular this time of year.
Mhm.
And like some cemeteries even offer a stroll through the cemetery. And if you're with a group of people and you're being respectful, they're more likely to follow your lead if you're openly and vocally
Mhm.
talking about why you're being respectful in the
Yes.
cemetery.
Well, exactly. And it's polite. I grew up
Mhm.
going on walks in the cemetery, as I said previously, and we were always taught to be respectful. Don't step on the graves. Yes, maybe these people aren't attached to these things. It's a
Maybe.
respect thing.
It is.
Don't hit the headstones or walk on the headstones. There's some assholes, I'm going to call them bitches, that'll knock over headstones. Why? You're bullying a dead person. You're a bastard. You know?
Yeah, it's unnecessary. And also, like, don't horse around in the graveyard because, again, I'm going to reference our vampire episode. Do you know how many ways that you can turn into a vampire? Like jumping over a grave.
Oh shit, I
supposedly?
forgot about that. Yeah.
So it's like these things are out there, but not everybody knows. Because if you've never thought about it, because like, you know, I'm connected to death. You grew up going on walks in the graveyard.
Right.
So we've both had time to think about or be taught about these things. But if you've never thought about it, then maybe you don't think about how disrespectful it is when you're walking through a graveyard and you're walking on top of where coffins are, where somebody's shin bones
First
are.
of all, what if you
Like-
fall in? That's so rude.
Oh,
That would
that
suck.
would be terrifying.
I mean, karma.
that
Like,
too.
that to me,
But,
it's
like-
that's so. What?
No, I'm just like, how terrifying to fall into. That is some like fucking Night of
Yeah,
the Living
because you
Dead
know
shit.
the fucking coffin's about to break. I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm a
yeah.
badass because it's been sitting there.
Oh God, I never want to just have the Oh my God, I'd be picturing zombies coming for my
Me
ankle.
too. Or
Oh my
reaching
God,
up. Oh my God. Even though
no.
that's never gonna.
Not
I'm
gonna
not
phase
gonna
us.
talk about that.
Yeah.
But even though that's not probable, that would be my first thought. Not only
Yeah.
that, but like that's a person's body that I'm
Yeah.
on top of now. Like I would
Uh-huh.
just die.
Oh my God. Yeah. And like, talk about a bad omen. You're traipsing through the graveyard all disrespectfully, and you just fall into an open grave because you're not being fucking careful.
It's
So
like
let's-
it's not
let's,
an
like-
open grave. The grave it just opens up, but you're running through the graveyard and you fall into an open grave. That's just a hole. That
Yeah.
means somebody died and they're about to be put in there.
Right. And like, you're going to get your leg broke. Worst case or best case, you're there for a while until somebody finds you. Worst case, you're there until the morning when they come for the services. Worst case,
God!
you don't wake up in time and you have a fucking coffin put on.
How traumatic would that be as a person going to
They don't
the
have the
funeral?
bells anymore. They don't put bells in there.
Well, I mean, as the person going to the funeral or getting ready for the funeral and they come up and they're sitting up and then they look in the hole, I would shit my pants. I would be like,
Oh,
oh my God, there's a fucking person in there.
How many?
Like-
I wonder how many undertakers, is that what they're
Caretakers?
called? The ones that dig the hole.
Oh, I don't know.
Are they
Maybe.
called undertakers? Anyway, how many of those guys that are like on a regular basis find people who have fallen into graves? Like,
Oh my God.
I wonder how often, like, is that common?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But I will
I'm-
say,
That
before
would be
we
karma. Like, because I'm all like, because here's my thing. If you don't want to do it because of respectfulness, we'll give you reasons to do it for your own fucking safety, like not falling through or into graves
I saw a video.
or on the fucking like fence spikes on the ones that have little fences.
Oh my
around
God,
them.
they do. Yeah.
That would
I
be-
saw a video where this girl was visiting a cemetery. This guy was visiting a cemetery. It was one of those things where the bodies are stacked on top of each other. One of them was leaking. And that does not happen anymore, guys. I mean, it used to be more common.
right.
That was a funeral home issue. And it was like Louisiana, and it was like 110 plus degrees, and the guy exploded in his coffin, and it was just leaking everywhere. And it's like, that's the funeral home issue.
See, and that is why, like, when I mentioned how, like, the reason we have cemeteries the way we do now, the way they're like spread out, or most of them are spread out, or before we got so overpopulated, they were spread out. It was because of public health, because like you can't be having body on top of body and like the germy fluid going everywhere, you know, like that's a public health issue.
On that,
Wow, I had gotten over it.
sorry, I was just gonna say on
I
that
had
note.
actually forgotten. But like, be respectful. If you're gonna go through cemetery, acknowledge the fact that you are walking through the final resting place of other human beings.
Right.
So don't vandalize, don't horse around and shove people into headstones, because that's another way to get hurt. Right? Headstones, like, they're out in the elements all the time. Like, you talk about videos like what you just talked about. I've seen things where like headstones fall over on people because
On
the earth
people. Oh my
underneath
God,
like
yes.
gave way,
And they're so heavy.
and they're horsing around. Exactly.
They're
And
so
they're heavy. So if you're not going to be respectful as needed out of respectfulness, then do it out of care for your own being, so you don't wind up in that cemetery.
I think that's a great way to end this episode. If
so-
you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe.
If you want to support this podcast for as little as $6 a month, you can find us on patreon.com/Witches Talking Tarot, just like Death by DVD.
Melissa
Victoria.
and Pam.
Thanks, guys.
You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Threads at Witches Talking Tarot.
And you can find us on the X at Classiest Witches, because we are the classiest witches, you know.
Bye.
Thanks for coming to sit with us for a spell.
Just a bunch of hocus pocus.
I'm Maddie.
I'm Amber. And we're Witches Talking Tarot.
We are the Weird Optimistic.
I get song like a Santa's snubble. Flip the switch and let the cauldron bubble. Sam.
Wow.